investors. Today we are going over what happened in the markets, primarily the indices today. We saw a lot of selling. We are still seeing some selling. So I want to go ahead and talk about everything that happened there. I also want to mention what we talked about in the trade room that I have last week, the Sunday night review session that we had last night, and then also our conversation this morning preparing for the selling that's taking place. So every weekend on Sunday nights, we typically have review sessions. So every Sunday night, I like to go over the week ahead. I look over the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, the VIX. We look at crude oil, gold, and silver. And we just look at the levels that are in play and some of the fundamental events or economic events that will also potentially have an impact on where price goes. And we like to take all that information and then we like to see what could potentially happen on Monday, Tuesday, etc. as the week goes on. Last week, we had the rollover, so that caused a little bit of some choppiness. You got people coming into the new contract, and so that kind of throws some things off there from a technical standpoint. Then we had the expiration on Friday, so that's all over with. This week on Wednesday, we have the Fed. So there's a lot of anticipation here coming up on Wednesday, and so what we talked about last night was the Fed itself, and we were still on some support. The shorts were holding, but there was still some support that was holding as well. And so we talked about where we could likely go if the shorts were to fail or if the longs were to fail. And that was extremely critical for us this morning because we talked about that plan last night. And last night we talked about what would happen if the shorts held and started to break down these long setups. That's exactly what we saw in the overnight session. The shorts held, we broke down long setups, and we're still seeing shorts continue to play. So this morning, what we talked about was what we call extension shorts, just these low-to-low setups here. And so that's exactly what traded in the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones. And I'll go ahead and talk about this. We did have this market analysis this morning, and I talk about exactly what we planned and reviewed yesterday. And that was Sunday night, what we talked about. So this is this morning, today at 8:30 a.m. Talk about the shorts have completed their targets, and we are potentially going to see these aggressive short setups called extensions. And, we may see them become aggressively sold because we broke these long setups. That's exactly what we saw today. You can see the price action so far for the day here in the S&P 500. That's exactly what's been going on. Now, that's all easy to say. So what are these extension setups? So what we're talking about here are the setups drawn from the Tuesday low to our current low. And as we move lower, we need to pull this draw to its new low. Okay, as we move lower, we need to pull this draw to its new low. So what we're talking about here are these extension setups. And I'm going to go away for a minute here on the screen, but you'll see that the market, this is Tuesday, right? So this is our low from Tuesday, drawn to our low of the morning, and we end up getting right into this resistance. We never actually quite tagged this resistance, but we can see how there were sellers anticipating that area. And then we went ahead and we sold down into this potential support. And something that we talk about here in this analysis is next potential support in ES is 43.24 quarter, 42.54 half. 43.24 quarter has now come into play. We see that come into play, and it's also noted that we've completed an extension short target. This short setup has completed its target at 43.19, and you can round down to 75. So we're seeing some of the buyers step in here on this support now, but we'll see because we can pull into the next short setup. And when this trades, we could again head lower into another support level, or if the ES were to climb and break above this 43.82, then maybe we'll see some buyers start to accumulate and start to build some long positions here. So we'll see which way the market decides to end up moving. Now, the NASDAQ has completed two targets from its 50% short, so the extension short is valid at 156.75, 185 half. But again, as the NASDAQ makes new lows, we need to move this draw to the new low. It's exactly how the NASDAQ was this morning as well. The NASDAQ, we're drawing from that, this time a Wednesday low instead of a Tuesday low. But we have this low here, and we're drawing down to the low of the morning. All of my trades this morning were in the NASDAQ. Every single trade I had this morning was in the NASDAQ. I think I had a few losers actually because there was a lot of volatility. I had an issue with my stop at one point. I had the wrong stop size. I have a way to calculate what stop I want to use, and I just had the wrong stop, and that ended up costing me some money. But I did have a good handful of trades that ended up winning. I ended the day with two really good winners on the smaller time frame, the 5-minute and the tick charts, that really, really did well. These really, really good extension trades that we'll talk about. And so even though I had a few losers, I had a few winners as well, and that covers for much more than what those losers were. You can see the risk reward on the screen that we can potentially have. So this 139 quarter ended up trading, got a great move to the downside here, and this is where most of my trades took place. When this short setup traded, we came into this resistance, and then we just moved on lower. And there were some really, really nice resistance levels that ended up playing out in the NASDAQ. If you're in the trade room, then you are well aware of these setups. We have this low to low short, then we have a high to low 50% short building upon this setup, which is exactly what we teach here in the trade room. And then we end up moving lower into more targets. And that is exactly what caused us to then look for this low to its new low. So we had this trade go ahead. That completes its target. I had that for a small winner. I wasn't able to take that all the way to the target. Then I had this trade to end my morning. That's exactly just what a great setup looks like. We tag this blue level here, and we just get rejected into the downside. Now, you're probably thinking, that's great and all, but how do you draw these setups? How do you know when to enter, when to exit, risk, reward, everything? I'd love to tell you, but you got to come join the room. So there's a free trial. You can get 2 weeks for free, and then you can see if you want to stick around or not. But in this room, you see I have the live trade room where we go live and everything like that. But learning videos, learning documents, I have tons of videos, tons of PDFs, slideshows, trade examples, etc. You name it, I have it in this room. And that's why I give a 2-week free trial. Not every strategy is for everybody. You know, everybody has their own personality, their own way they pick apart the markets. And this might be too technical for some people, or maybe you like to scalp and there's not enough opportunities for you to be scalping. So it doesn't fit everybody, but that's okay. People that are in this room, it seems to help a lot. And even this morning, one of our members who's been doing very well trading, he actually had a great day shorting the Dow Jones. But you know, some jolly good trades using the 512 tick, 50%, which is exactly what we're on right here. 512 tick, and we're using some of these levels here, taught here by the excellent host. That was a nice comment that he made. For those of you that are fairly new here, that have to learn the strategy, Dan has rather good training videos explaining that. Strongly advise you make use of it. And, you know, obviously I agree with him, but that's why there's a 2-week free trial. If it's not for you, you just cancel and move on. But if it is for you, if you're learning a lot, you get to stick around. We go live twice a week to trade together. We go live on the weekends to review. And that's not just me talking about what's happening in the markets. It's you asking questions. You know, how did you get this set up? You know, what are you looking for in the week ahead? We even have some stocks in here that we talk about. And like I showed you guys, the market analysis is sent every morning just like this. And you can see that we talked about these setups here, you know, in the markets today. And they've pretty much taken place. The VIX here also had a setup that traded. We can talk about in a moment. But, you know, there's a science to what we do here in this trade room and how we take these trades. But I can't give away everything right now in this public video. But that being said, some really good examples there in the shorts. And the Dow was the same way. The Dow had a low-to-low setup. We had this low to its new low, and we saw those levels trade here and then get rejected toward the downside. Exactly what we talked about in the market analysis. The VIX, what I mentioned in the VIX was actually this setup right here. So in the VIX, we have getting aggressive toward the upside. When the VIX continues higher like this, we typically see indices sell aggressively, which validates our extension shorts more in the indices. What are the extension shorts? They are the low-to-low setup that we just covered in the S&P and the NASDAQ, and we talked about it briefly in the Dow. But those low-to-low setups didn't quite trade yet. This was sent at 8:30 in the morning. That was before these setups traded. The extensions traded here. You know, the Dow traded at about 9 a.m. The NASDAQ, we can see, pulled into like right after the open, around 9:30, and then again at 9:45. And the S&P was similar. The S&P came into this around 9:45, 9:30. So, you know, this was way after we sent this market analysis. And what I mean by the statement here, when the VIX continues higher like this, we typically see indices sell aggressively. They have an inverse relationship. So we're seeing the VIX take off. We're seeing the indices start to head lower. That's validating the moves for the way we trade. And so we see here, I mentioned I'll be tracking a potential extension long in the VIX from the high of rollover, which is this high right here, high of Wednesday, to the new high. And at that point, that was this high here about 8 a.m. And then we pulled into this 38.2, this extension level. about 9 a.m. Around the same time that the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Dow traded their resistance, the VIX trades their support. The VIX moves higher, the indices move lower, and that's what helps us a lot here when we're trading and trying to find, which trend is going to hold. So with all that being said, let's talk about the setups a little bit more. But primarily with this NASDAQ, as I mainly trade the NASDAQ, and I've been going over this one more in the trade room, really just from start to finish, all we had was a larger time frame short. So if we want to draw this up, we have a 50% short. That's a 15,508 quarter. The white levels are 50%. Again, all this is talked about a lot more in the trade room, and you can get that 2-week free trial. I'll put the link in the description. But you can see we go ahead and we just rip lower here in the NASDAQ. We're kind of just consolidating back and forth for a few days last week. Then we have expiration of the rollover, or the old contract. We have rollover and everything. Now we start to move. We see the direction the market wants to move, and so we just go along for the ride. And so we have this low down to its new low, and that's what traded this morning. And that was this low to low setup. From there, we tag this blue level, and again, I talk about this a lot more in the trade room. Then we go ahead and we complete our targets that we had for the day in the NASDAQ. Now, what this helps us do is not just profit in futures trading, which is really great and all, but we have investments. We have long-term plays here in the stock market, and this allows us to hedge those losses. Right? A day like today, if you own stocks that are in the tech, probably looking at a lot of red today. So the futures trading allows us to hedge that by taking some of these short setups and collecting those profits. That's exactly what we look for here in the trade room. But I know there's probably going to be questions, comments on this, so feel free to ask questions and comment. But I strongly encourage you, if you are interested, to go ahead and check out this trade room 2-week free trial like I mentioned. Every morning the market analysis is sent, going over exactly what we're looking for the day, what I'm going to look for at least, and kind of like my plan for the day with trading. We have levels that I send out every morning. We have a chat room like I showed you guys with us kind of talking together and everything like that. Stocks and options, where I share some of the stocks I'm looking to invest in. The live trading that we do twice a week, and the review sessions on the weekend. Then we also go ahead and we have learning videos, learning documents, which I think are the best part of the room. We're just learning exactly what I've used to become a funded trader at multiple firms and be consistently profitable. And even with my investing, I use the same strategies that I do for trading with my investing. I just add a lot more fundamental analysis with those stocks. With futures, I'm more just trading off the levels, and I keep in mind the economic events. Stocks, I do pay a lot more attention to, the earnings reports and what the company actually does fundamentally. So those are important. But all very useful stuff. Again, any questions, comments, feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to discuss it. Otherwise, guys, take care and have a great day.